The classroom was alive with the usual chatter of students. Some flipped through holographic textbooks, their fingers tracing diagrams of alien anatomy and interstellar biology. Others whispered jokes or nudged each other, waiting for the lesson to begin. The teacher, a stern-looking alien named Vierks, hovered over the front of the room, arranging floating data panels in preparation for the lecture. Everything seemed normal until it was. A low vibration ran through the metal floor. At first, students thought it was just the building settling, or perhaps the transport tube on the other side of the academy. Then a hiss echoed through the air vents. The lights flickered for a moment, and the room's atmosphere shifted in a way that made every student's stomach tighten. Something was coming. The doors slid open with a hiss. A figure stepped through the threshold, and the classroom went instantly silent. It was massive, towering above the students and the teacher. Its skin shimmered with colors that seemed to shift depending on the angle of the light, scales that reflected the fluorescent glow like broken mirrors. Its eyes glowed an eerie green, sharp and predatory, locking onto the students with obvious intent. A low, rumbling growl vibrated through the air, and the hair, or whatever the alien equivalent was, stood on end for some of the students. Whispers turned into panicked murmurs. Some scrambled under desks, clutching their holopads to shield their faces. Others froze entirely, unable to move, paralyzed by fear. All except Marcus. Marcus was a human exchange student, seated near the back, quietly reading his textbook. He did not flinch. He did not look up at first. His hand idly traced the page as though nothing had changed. The growl came closer, resonating through the metal walls, and the predator stepped fully into the room, its claws scraping along the floor with a sound that made hearts skip a beat. Still, Marcus remained calm. His eyes lifted slowly from the page, meeting the predator's gaze with steady confidence. "You don't want to make a scene here," Marcus said, his voice calm but clear. It was almost casual, like telling someone not to spill a drink. The predator stopped, its massive head tilted, studying Marcus. It had seen fear in countless creatures, panic in many races, but it had never encountered one that reacted like this. No trembling, no running, no begging, only calm, only observation. The other students couldn't believe it. Some peeked from under desks, hoping Marcus was imagining things, but he was not. The predator's presence was real and its intention clear. It had come to hunt. Marcus rose from his chair slowly, deliberately. Every movement was controlled, measured. He didn't reach for a weapon because he didn't need one. The predator didn't move forward immediately, as if trying to understand this strange behavior. It had not yet decided whether Marcus was prey, a threat, or something else entirely. "You're far from home," Marcus said, keeping his voice even, "and you've underestimated humans." A hiss escaped the predator's mouth, a sound that seemed part growl, part question. Its claws dug slightly into the floor, leaving shallow scratches. The other students were frozen in place, watching, some whispering prayers to deities they had never believed in before. The predator lunged. The classroom erupted in screams, a chaotic symphony of fear. Desks tipped over, holopads flew into the air, and students dove for cover. But Marcus didn't dodge. He met the alien head-on. With one swift motion, he caught the predator's claw midair. The claws were massive, tipped with serrated edges that could cut through steel, yet Marcus held it without strain. His grip was steady, firm, and somehow confident. The predator recoiled slightly, more out of surprise than pain. The room went dead silent. Even the faint hum of the ventilation system seemed to pause. No one had expected this. A human, so fragile compared to the predator's size and strength, was standing unshaken, holding the creature's claw. Marcus spoke softly. "There's a better way to resolve this. You want something. I can give it to you, but not through killing." The predator's glowing eyes narrowed. It was not accustomed to negotiations. Predators did not bargain. They hunted, they killed, and they fed. This human, however, was unlike anything it had faced. Marcus understood instincts, observed behavior, and reacted in a way that disrupted the predator's usual process. "Why are you not afraid?" the predator hissed. Its voice was like 1,000 sharp stones grinding together. Marcus shrugged slightly, still holding the claw. "Fear is for those who have no options. I have options." The predator's head moved slightly, circling him. Every step it took made the floor tremble. Marcus didn't flinch. Instead, he watched the creature's movements carefully, noting the slight hesitation in its stride, the twitch of its tail, the way it positioned its body for attack. He was analyzing, calculating, and ready for any possibility. A young student, hidden behind a desk, whispered to another, He's going to die." But Marcus wasn't thinking about death. He was thinking about survival, and survival didn't always mean running or fighting. Sometimes it meant understanding. "You humans are strange," the predator said finally, its voice lower now, less threatening, more curious. "You do not fight, you do not flee, you reason." Marcus nodded. "Exactly, I reason. You reason too, in your way. We can find a solution without bloodshed. Trust me, it's better for both of us." The predator tilted its head again, considering. It had never encountered a human willing to stand so calmly, so confidently, in front of death itself. Every instinct it had told it to strike immediately, but something about this human disrupted its patterns. "You are bold," it finally said. "I have never seen such composure in prey." Marcus relaxed slightly, still holding the claw but easing the tension. "Boldness can be useful," he replied, "but control is better." The predator's green eyes flickered, a hint of confusion and intrigue crossing its face. It had expected terror, screams, a fight it would win effortlessly. Instead, it had met a human who understood behavior, who calculated responses with precision, who did not panic even when surrounded by potential victims. Marcus lowered the claw slowly, demonstrating trust. "I am not your enemy," he said. "Not today." The predator paused. Its massive frame shifted slightly as it studied him. It had hunted countless species, dominated entire planets, but humans were different. They were fragile, yes, but fragile didn't mean weak. This one had strength the predator could not measure in muscle alone. Strength of mind, control of instinct, confidence that made even the fiercest hunter hesitate. "Why do you not fear me?" the predator asked again. "Because I know you want something," Marcus replied, "and I can give it to you if we handle this calmly. You do not need to kill anyone in this room. You do not need to make this worse." The predator growled softly, almost thoughtfully. It had never experienced prey negotiating with it, much less calmly and confidently. There was a pause, long enough for the students to collectively hold their breath. The air itself seemed to wait for the predator's next move. Finally, the creature lowered its massive head slightly. "You confuse me," it admitted. "Most creatures would be dead or hiding." "You stand," Marcus smiled faintly. "Humans have survived in worse situations. We adapt, we learn, we do not panic. You might be strong, but we are unpredictable." The predator studied him, tilting its head from side to side, as if trying to understand a puzzle that had no solution in its experience. It was powerful, fast, and deadly, but Marcus's calmness, his ability to analyze and act without emotion, created an uncertainty the predator had never faced before. "I will observe," the predator said finally. Its claws retracted slightly, the threat in its stance reduced but not gone. Marcus nodded. It was not an agreement of friendship, but it was a pause in hostilities. The students emerged slowly from hiding. Eyes wide, they stared at Marcus, some whispering in awe. He had faced an alien predator with nothing but his mind and courage, and he had survived. More than survived, he had controlled the encounter. The teacher, still trembling but recovering, muttered, I have never seen such bravery in a human." Marcus shrugged, almost modestly. "Bravery is good, but understanding is better." The predator shifted its stance, still watching, still analyzing. It had come to the classroom for a hunt, expecting fear and chaos. Instead, it had found composure, calculation, and intelligence. It had found a human who defied every expectation of prey behavior. As the predator moved toward the exit, it paused. Its glowing eyes met Marcus's. For the first time, it considered humans differently, not as weak creatures to be hunted, but as unpredictable and clever beings, capable of strategies that could rival its own. Marcus watched it leave, then turned to the remaining students. "Lesson over," he said calmly, though his heart still beat fast. "Let's get back to class." The students stared, half in disbelief, half in admiration. They had witnessed something extraordinary. Not a battle of strength or weapons, but a battle of calm, intellect, and confidence. Humans, it seemed, were not to be underestimated. The classroom returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the memory of the predator and the human who had faced it without fear lingered in every mind. Whispers spread quickly. A human had faced death calmly and survived, not through force, but through the mind. And somewhere in the galaxy, the predator carried that lesson with it. It would not forget. It would not underestimate humans again. The days after the predator's first visit were unlike any Marcus had ever experienced. Word of the incident spread across the academy like wildfire. Students whispered in corridors, teachers spoke in cautious tones, and administrators debated the implications in high-level meetings. A human had faced a predator and lived, not just lived, but had controlled the situation without weapons or tricks. For Marcus, it was just another day. He moved through the academy with quiet confidence, ignoring curious stares. Most students kept their distance, some out of fear, others out of awe. He had been in situations like this before, in smaller ways on Earth. Humans had always relied on cleverness and courage to survive. And now, in this corner of the galaxy, that trait was about to be tested on a larger scale. It started with rumors. A predator ship had been spotted near the Academy's sector, far larger and more intimidating than the first. Scouts claimed it carried multiple hunters, all focused on the human who had defied death calmly. Marcus overheard students speculating in hushed voices. "They've never seen a human do that before," one said. "They're coming back to finish the job." He did not panic. Fear was a tool for prey, not for him. Instead, he prepared. He studied predator behavior, observing every detail of the creature he had faced, its reactions, its hunting instincts, its curiosity. He knew it would not attack recklessly again. This time, it would plan. It would test. It would seek to find a weakness. The predator arrived 2 days later. Unlike before, it did not enter the classroom alone. Several others followed. The classroom door slid open, and a group of towering hunters filled the space, their scales shimmering under the artificial lights. Their eyes glowed with hunger, curiosity, and anticipation. Students froze immediately. Some screamed, some fainted. Chaos rippled through the room. Marcus remained seated, calm, observing. The lead predator stepped forward, the same one from before, its eyes locked on Marcus. It had expected fear, had anticipated panic, but here he was, still calm, still analyzing. That same composure had to be tested. The predators exchanged low growls, communicating in a language humans could not understand, yet Marcus sensed the meaning. They were strategizing. They were predators, and they were being challenged by something they could not predict. "Back again," Marcus said softly. His voice did not waver. "I assume you're curious why the first encounter didn't go as expected." The lead predator hissed. Its claws dug into the floor. Marcus noted the slight hesitation, the careful movements. They were cautious, not blind to danger. He stood slowly, folding his hands behind his back, meeting their gaze with unwavering eyes. One of the predators lunged, quick, sharp, deadly, but Marcus did not run. Instead, he sidestepped at the perfect moment, letting the creature's momentum carry it forward. He used its strength against itself, redirecting it into the wall without touching it aggressively. The predator stumbled, more surprised than hurt. The students gasped. They had never seen a human move like that. It was as if he anticipated every strike, every step, every intent. Marcus was not relying on brute strength. He was reading instincts and acting with precision. "You see," Marcus said calmly, "this is not just a fight of power. It's a fight of understanding, and you, like the others, have predictable habits." The predators hissed and growled. Their communication was fast, almost incomprehensible, but Marcus understood the rhythm, the pattern, the subtle signals. They were frustrated but intrigued. They had underestimated humans before. That mistake had cost them control. Another predator lunged. This time Marcus grabbed its arm midair, twisting it with a careful grip that caused no harm but immobilized it temporarily. The room was tense, silent except for the low growls and Marcus's steady breathing. Students held their collective breath. No one had dared imagine a human could stand toe-to-toe with a predator, let alone control the encounter. "You underestimate intelligence," Marcus said, still calm. "Strength alone does not guarantee victory." The lead predator stared at him. Its glowing green eyes flickered. It had hunted thousands of species, dominated entire planets, and yet here was a fragile creature, human, displaying a level of control, prediction, and courage it could not understand. It hesitated. It was unfamiliar with prey that did not panic, flee, or fight blindly. The predators regrouped, circling Marcus cautiously. Their movements were calculated, testing him, looking for weaknesses, but Marcus had none to show. His mind worked faster than their claws could strike, predicting patterns, exploiting instincts, turning aggression into hesitation. The students slowly began to notice the change. The predators were confused. They were adapting, yes, but in a way that made them cautious. Marcus moved calmly among them, analyzing, redirecting, never showing fear. Each movement was deliberate. Each word was precise. The predators began to mirror his hesitation, unsure when to strike, unsure when to retreat. Marcus spoke again. "You don't need to fight me. You don't need to test me. You want to understand humans, yes. Observation is enough. Learning from mistakes is enough. You do not need to risk injury for information you can gain by watching." The lead predator paused, considering. It was testing him, yes, but also learning. Humans were not meant to dominate with sheer strength. They adapted with mind and strategy. That was a trait predators did not fully comprehend. A younger predator hissed and lunged, faster than the others. Marcus caught its claw midair, twisting gently, just enough to unbalance it without causing harm. The predator growled in frustration. Marcus did not release it immediately. Instead, he observed it, showing calm dominance through intellect rather than force. The room was silent. Students could barely breathe. Even the teachers observing remotely were stunned. Marcus, a single human, had taken control of an encounter that should have been catastrophic. "You are different," the lead predator said finally, voice low, almost respectful. "We expected fear. We expected chaos. You manipulate instead." Marcus nodded. "Yes, understanding is a weapon as powerful as claws or teeth. Fear is a choice. Panic is predictable. Humans survive because we adapt and think beyond instinct." The predators hissed again, but the tone had changed. Confusion remained, yes, but also respect. They had underestimated humans, and this one had shown them the consequences of that mistake. Marcus glanced at the students. "Everyone stay calm. If you panic, you give them reason to attack. Keep your distance and watch." He turned back to the predators. "You want information about humans, their strength, their limits. Observe. Engage your senses, but do not strike recklessly. There is no need. You will learn more from caution than from violence." The predators paused, communicating among themselves. Marcus noted their hesitation and realized they were trying to adapt, to test strategies without risk. He had shifted the battlefield from one of physical dominance to one of psychological equilibrium. Another predator lunged. Marcus sidestepped again, using its weight against it, redirecting momentum into a harmless collision with the wall. He moved with rhythm, anticipating every movement. Students stared in awe. They were witnessing not a fight but a display of human resilience and intellect, turning danger into control. "You are resilient," the lead predator said after a long pause. "You are unlike anything we expected. Most creatures die the moment they are faced with true predators." Marcus smiled faintly. "We survive because we learn, because we adapt, because we do not panic." The predators stopped their attacks. Their eyes, glowing and sharp, studied him in ways Marcus had never seen before. They were learning, yes, but also recalculating. They were predators, yes, but humans were unpredictable, dangerous in a way the predators could not easily measure. For the students, it was a lesson beyond any textbook. Humans were clever, adaptable, and courageous. Marcus was proof of what they had always been told but had never fully believed. Intelligence and calmness could overcome brute force, even against alien predators. Marcus stepped back, lowering his hands. The predators mirrored his motion slightly, cautious, restrained. There was tension in the room, yes, but the immediate threat had diminished. Marcus had not harmed a single creature, yet he had gained control. "You understand now," Marcus said quietly. "Humans are not weak. Do not make the mistake of underestimating us again." The lead predator hesitated, then inclined its massive head. It had not attacked, had not killed, and had not fled. It had learned, and that was enough for Marcus. The predators retreated slowly, communicating in low growls and hisses. They left the classroom, leaving the students shaken but unharmed. The academy was abuzz with whispers and admiration. Marcus had survived not through weapons, not through force, but through intelligence, calmness, and understanding of instincts, both human and alien. The incident became the subject of discussion across the galaxy. Humans were being noticed, not for their strength or size, but for their adaptability, courage, and intellect. Other predators, hearing of Marcus's encounters, began approaching cautiously, curious but hesitant. The galaxy was learning a lesson. Humans could not be underestimated. Marcus returned to his usual routine, quietly observing, quietly learning. But the world around him had changed. He had proven that humans, though fragile in appearance, possessed a strength that could rival the most fearsome creatures in the galaxy. It was not the end of the threat. Predators would return, always testing, always hunting. But Marcus had shown the way forward. Humans were clever, humans were brave, and humans, above all, adapted. The academy had never been quieter. The news of the predators' return and Marcus's previous encounters had spread to every corner of the galaxy. Students whispered in the hallways, teachers discussed in hushed tones, and alien authorities monitored the situation with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Marcus walked calmly through the corridors, aware that today could bring the ultimate test. He had prepared. Not with weapons, not with armor, but with knowledge, strategy, and confidence. Humans had survived countless threats throughout history, not because they were the strongest, but because they could think, adapt, and stay calm when others panicked. Today, that trait would be tested to its limit. The first warning came in the form of a low, rumbling vibration beneath the academy's floors. Students froze, remembering the previous encounters. Marcus, however, remained seated in the lecture hall, quietly observing the ceiling panels for signs of movement. The vibration intensified, then abruptly stopped. The doors slid open with a hiss. This time, the predator arrived with an army. Dozens of massive alien hunters filed into the hall, each one more menacing than the last. Their scales shimmered in iridescent patterns, their eyes glowed like molten emeralds, and their claws scraped across the floor with precision. The humans scattered instinctively, hiding behind desks, walls, and furniture. Marcus stayed put, calm, unshaken, observing. The lead predator, the one that had first encountered Marcus, stepped forward. Its glowing eyes locked on him, studying him with both caution and intrigue. It hissed, communicating with the others in a rapid, sharp language Marcus could not understand fully, yet the intent was clear. They were testing, evaluating, hunting. "You're back," Marcus said, standing slowly, hands folded behind his back. "And you brought friends. I hope they're ready to learn." The predators tilted their heads, intrigued. They had expected fear, chaos, panic, but none of that was present. Marcus's calm, unwavering gaze challenged every instinct they possessed. He was not prey, he was something different. The first predator lunged. Marcus sidestepped with precise timing, allowing its momentum to carry it forward. It collided with the wall harmlessly. Another lunged from the side. He twisted, redirecting its energy into a gentle but unyielding hold. Students stared in awe. They had never seen anything like this. Humans were supposed to be fragile, yet Marcus controlled an entire army of predators without harming them. "You think strength is everything," Marcus said, voice steady. "But intelligence, observation, and patience, those are far stronger weapons than claws or teeth." The predators hissed, exchanging rapid signals. They began to adapt. Instead of charging recklessly, they moved in coordinated formations, circling Marcus, probing his reactions, testing his limits. But Marcus anticipated. He read their movements, calculated the angles, and positioned himself perfectly to maintain control without striking a single blow. The students whispered among themselves, some too scared to move, others frozen in admiration. Marcus had taught them a lesson far beyond any textbook. Humans survive through cleverness, not brute force. A particularly aggressive predator lunged, faster than the others. Marcus caught its claw midair, twisting gently to unbalance it. The creature struggled for a moment, confused by this human's calm strength, then froze as Marcus's steady gaze held it in place. "You underestimate humans at your own peril," Marcus said. "We adapt, we learn, we do not panic." The predators hesitated. Their glowing eyes flickered with confusion. They had anticipated chaos and terror, but Marcus offered neither. Every instinct they had told them to attack, to strike, to dominate, but they could not act recklessly. Humans did not behave like typical prey. Marcus moved carefully, positioning himself in the center of the hall. Each predator approached, testing him in turn, but he remained calm, analyzing, observing, predicting every strike, every movement. Students watched as a single human held control over dozens of creatures that could crush them in moments. "You have shown bravery," the lead predator said finally, hissing in a low tone. "But bravery alone does not protect you. Why do you not fear?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Because fear is only useful when it motivates action. Panic is predictable. Understanding, observation, and strategy, that is how humans survive. We face danger not with instinct alone, but with thought." The predators paused, communicating among themselves. Their leader circled Marcus, eyes narrowing. It had faced countless prey, yet none had reacted this way. None had anticipated every move, redirected every attack, and remained calm under pressure. Marcus had transformed the battlefield from one of strength into one of intellect. A younger predator, smaller but faster, lunged from above. Marcus tilted his body with perfect timing, letting it pass harmlessly, then shifted its momentum into a gentle collision with a wall. The predator hissed in frustration but did not attack again. Marcus had taught it without violence, using strategy, observation, and calm control. The students began to whisper in awe. Marcus was not only surviving, he was dominating the encounter through intelligence. The predators, powerful and terrifying as they were forced to rethink their approach. They were predators, yes, but humans were unpredictable, clever, and brave beyond measure. Marcus raised his hand slowly, signaling them to pause. "You want to learn about humans, yes. Observe carefully. Use your senses, your instincts, but do not attack recklessly. You will understand more this way than by striking blindly." The predators paused, exchanging signals. Marcus's calm authority had shifted their behavior. They were no longer hunting recklessly, they were learning, observing, calculating. Marcus had taken control without a single blow. "You have surprised us," the lead predator said finally. "We expected prey, we expected fear. You manipulate, you anticipate, you control." Marcus nodded. "Exactly. Humans are not weak. We survive because we learn, because we adapt, and because we remain calm when others panic. You will not underestimate us again." The predators hissed lowly, circling, still cautious but no longer aggressive. Marcus had demonstrated dominance not through strength, but through intelligence, courage, and calmness. He had turned a battle into a lesson, showing that humans could rival the most fearsome predators in the galaxy without killing or harming anyone. One by one, the predators backed away, retreating to the doors. They had learned their lesson. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and worthy of respect. Marcus had survived the ultimate test, and the galaxy would take note. Students emerged from hiding, staring in awe. Marcus had faced a dozen predators, controlled them, and survived through intellect and strategy alone. They whispered stories to one another, stories that would spread across the academy and beyond. A human had faced death calmly and turned it into victory. The lead predator paused at the doorway, its glowing eyes meeting Marcus's once more. There was a strange respect in that gaze, a recognition that humans were not to be underestimated. It hissed softly, then turned, signaling the others to follow. Marcus watched them leave, breathing slowly but steadily. The hall was quiet, almost reverent. He had proven that humans, though small and seemingly fragile, possessed qualities that could rival the strongest creatures in the galaxy. Intelligence, patience, observation, and courage, these were the weapons of humanity, far sharper than claws or fangs. In the days that followed, the academy and the surrounding sectors buzzed with news of the incident. Other predators, hearing of Marcus's encounters, approached cautiously. Humans had been underestimated for too long. Now the galaxy was learning the truth. Humans were clever, brave, and adaptable. Marcus returned to his studies, quietly observing, quietly preparing. He knew the predators would return, testing again, hunting again. But he also knew that humans had an advantage that could never be measured in raw strength alone. In every corner of the galaxy, the story spread. Humans survived, humans adapted, humans thrived, not through brute force but through intellect and courage. Marcus had shown the way, and humanity's reputation among the stars was forever changed. The predators would remember. The galaxy would remember. And humans would continue to survive, to adapt, and to thrive against odds that no other species could overcome. Marcus closed his textbook and looked around the quiet hall. He smiled faintly, knowing that the battle was over for now. Humans had shown their greatest strength: the mind, the courage to face fear without panic, and the ability to turn the tables on the most fearsome creatures in the universe. It was a victory not of violence but of intelligence, not of strength but of courage. And it was only the beginning. The academy doors opened once more, this time without predators, but Marcus knew they would return, and when they did, he would be ready. Humans were unpredictable, humans were clever, humans would survive. And the galaxy would never again underestimate them.